The In Conversation podcast series with author Nigel Beckles.
Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast.
Get ready for takeoff.
Welcome back to my In Conversation podcast series. My guest for this episode is an American love and relationship coach with a degree in psychology who specializes in helping women understand how men really think. Kelvin Troy Johnson. Hi Kelvin, welcome to my podcast series. How are you?
Nigel, I am outstanding and I'm glad to be here.
That's good to hear. You are in America. Whereabouts are you? Where do you live?
So I am in Atlanta. I'm in the ATL, and it's a beautiful day in the ATL. It's 90 plus degrees and a great place to live.
And how long have you lived there?
So I've been here for about almost 4 years. I moved here from New Jersey, born and raised in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I had to get into a bigger market where the ceiling is higher and the expectations are higher as well. So yeah, I'm here and making it happen.
Well, I understand you coach in the area of business, life, and relationships. Those could be considered diverse areas to be interested in. Why did you decide to become a relationship coach for women?
So my background is from the social services background, working with males, boys, grown men coming out of the jail system, just always working with men in the church, men's ministries. I'm in an international fraternity called Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And so always working with males. And during this time of working with males, I learned some things. You can't do, thousands of counseling and coaching sessions with men without hearing their secrets and their reasons and their thoughts. Why they did the things that they did and what brought them to, where they were. And there were almost always a relationship component to it. And so I heard all of these secrets, these reasons. And when I decided to move to Atlanta, I was looking at my skill set and said, I wonder who would like to know how men think when it comes to dating, relationships, and love. And the obvious person is women who are looking for those things in men. So that's how we got there.
Well, let's step into the In Conversation time tunnel for a bit, because you went to university and you studied psychology. So why did you choose that particular subject?
I chose psychology because I always was fascinated with how people think, why people did the things that they did. I can remember being a kid and watching, things in my own neighborhood and just wondering why did the police just chase that black guy down and he get the baton upside his head? Or why did he do the thing that got the police called in the first place? And, all of that, I've always just had this why question. One of those annoying little kids who ask daddy and ask mommy, why this and why that? And that was me. And so always been curious about human behavior. And so when I got the opportunity, I knew I was going to be serving people. I wanted to serve people, but I knew I had to understand people first.
So why did you decide to become a relationship coach for women in particular?
Because I had the answers that they were asking. I remember having a conversation with a young woman who she was in her mid-30s, beautiful. She was successful. She had her own everything, own job, own car. And she would always talk to me about asking me questions. She's like, you're a man, you've talked to men. Why is it that I can't find a good, high quality man? All the men that I meet are, she called low quality. They either don't have a car, they don't have a job, they don't have a life, but they have audacity to come and talk to me. And that seems to be the only kind of guy who confronts me. And so I started noticing these conversations more and more about kind of the mystery of the male behavior. And so that kind of got me going and thinking of maybe this could be something. I created a group. I actually connected, when I got here, I connected to other therapists and other counselors. And and created Love Coach Atlanta, where we go out and do dating and relationship coaching and do live events and matchmaking and all that good stuff. So that's where we are.
And how long have you been doing that, Kelvin?
I would say Love Coach just celebrated 3 years last month it was. So it's been 3 years.
Well, you also have a YouTube channel called Secrets of the Mind of a Man. What type of male issues do you explore on your channel?
Oh, we get into all the issues, whether it's why men choose the kind of women that they choose. We get into red flags that you see, red flags to look out for in relationships and when you're dealing with men, just all those sort of things of the conversations that women have. And many of these come straight from conversations that I've had with women about dealing with the men in their lives. And so I love the channel, and we're having a great time with it.
I know that you're releasing a book soon. What type of relationship topics will you explore in your book?
Yeah, so in the book, I'm going to talk really in depth about the 3 areas that I think are kind of the most important areas that men and women, but particularly in this case, men deal with. As I dealt with men, I found 3 areas that were, most engaging with these men. And it was the 3 things were purpose, power, and potential. So as I worked with the men, I worked with them on discovering their own purpose, power, and potential, right? But as I was working with these men, I discovered that even as they were going into the dating market, as they're seeking relationships, they are also looking for women who have a purpose in their life.
Why do you think women approach you for your services?
Well, at this point, because they see my conversations online talking about relationships, and really, it's very rare that you hear men talking about relationships. I mean, there's a few guys who are out there who are pretty famous at this point, but for the most part, most of the people who talk about relationships are women. Most of the people who talk about love are women, and so when you have a man willing to talk about emotions and thoughts and feelings and all of that, it catches the ear. And many women are dealing with some things that they've never expressed to anybody. They're dealing with conflicts and just wondering where the relationship that they're in is going, and is this really what they want? They've bought into an ideal that came from Hollywood, or more like Disney magic. They brought into the Cinderella complex that the prince is coming. The prince, he's coming. My life was terrible, but one day the prince will reach out his hand and take me on my merry way and change my life forever. But instead of a prince, they end up getting a frog.
Well, I do talk about that in my first book. In fact, that is the first chapter, which is called Love Myths, the 5 love myths. It's kind of crazy how some people have got these ideas about what real love and true love is. Like there's only one ideal soulmate for a particular person when there's like 6+ billion people on the planet.
Correct. And if you watch the Hallmark movies, I don't know if you get the Hallmark movies over there, but the Hallmark movies will have you thinking that this is the way that it should be. And, this guy, he's not acting like the guy in the Hallmark movie. If he would only act better, if he'd only be better and think better and treat me like that he treated the lady in the movie, my life would be good and everybody would be happy. That's a movie. It's not real life.
Yeah.
In real life, people come from real backgrounds of hurt and pain and tragedy and triumph. And, people come from all kinds of backgrounds. And in particular, I had one client. He was a young man. He's coming out of the system. I worked at a homeless place, a place that kind of helped homeless men get back on their feet. And I was one of the counselors there. And this gentleman, he came in and talked to me. He's like, I've never talked to anybody really about my background and the conflicts that I have. He came from foster care system. Now, in the foster care system, you could, especially back in those days, let's say 30 years ago, in the foster care system in New Jersey, it was like something that you would have seen out of some medieval, movie. Slept in the basement of a house, and it was cold in the wintertime and hot in the summertime. And he said the people treated them literally like animals. And so he goes into the world, and he's inequipped to handle real relationships with a real woman who has real expectations of him. So that's just kind of an example of the conversations that I end up having with these women about the men in their lives and the backgrounds where these men come from, and how to frame it. It's about framing it. Like, it's all in how you see him. Yes, he may talk to you sometimes in a way that you don't like, right? But for him, that just may be his language. That's just the way that he communicates, right? Now, that's not to say that you should put up with somebody who talks badly to you, but you do have the right to say, wait a minute, sir, I don't put up with people who talk to me and call me all kinds of names and then turn around and say you love me. That gives him a measure of what the expectation is and what she will and will not accept, which is one of the biggest keys to winning in this game of relationships for women, is to lay out that expectation of what you will and what you will not accept.
Yeah, and stick to it. But that's all about personal boundaries, isn't it? Maintaining healthy personal boundaries so you know what your deal breakers are, what you will accept and what you won't accept. Unfortunately, some people seem to get very disappointed by their expectations, whereas your expectations are what you decide you will tolerate. Yes.
And that's where the conflict is. If you look at most conflicts within relationships, it comes to expectations. You thought it was going to be one way, and I thought it was going to be a different way. But we didn't communicate what we were hoping for in that situation. So we don't get what we were hoping for because the person didn't know what we were hoping for. Now, sometimes people will know what you're hoping for and still not do it. Then you have to come and make a decision on if this person even is capable of giving you what you want. Listen, Nigel, I've talked to women about that idea of teaching a man how to love. That guy that I just described, he has to be taught how to love, not to mention how to love her, right? And there are some women who are willing to walk that walk with a man, and there are other women that are like, oh, wait a minute. They're like, oh, no, I don't have time. I'm such and such age. I've accomplished these things in my life, and I don't have time for a man who doesn't know what he wants and doesn't know how to manage and how to articulate what he wants. And I say, okay, well, that kind of guy is not for you.
Well, we're talking about deal breakers, really, aren't we? So we're talking about personal boundaries and deal breakers, because we have to decide as men and women what our deal breakers are.
True.
So besides relationship coaching and your other interests, what other things do you do to chill out and relax?
Chill out and relax. I play piano. I enjoy playing piano. I play generally on the weekends. And now that there's the pandemic, I'm playing at home for myself, when I get a chance to do that. But a lot of my time, I love going by the ocean. Because most of my week is filled with interviews, and I've got working on the book and working on, I've got the videos that have to be edited. And I really just enjoy getting near some water, going to a lake nearby and just relaxing, just taking it all in.
Well, Steve Harvey had great success with his book, Think Like a Lady, Act Like a Man. So yes. I'm hoping that your book is as successful as Mr. Harvey's, because he had great success with that. So besides getting your book published this year, what other plans do you have for the future? What's on your bucket list?
It's interesting that you mentioned Steve Harvey, because he happens to be my fraternity brother, and we're in the same fraternity. But my ultimate goal, Nigel, I'm closing my eyes as I'm saying this. My goal is to take Steve Harvey's place as the number one relationship speaker, number one book that comes out that literally changes the way people see and view relationships. That book he had changed the game, and I want to pick up from where he dropped off and multiply that as being, taking a message around the world that you deserve to be loved. You deserve to give love and to be loved, and you should never ever accept anything else except love.
You mentioned that you and Steve Harvey are in the same fraternity. What does that mean? What is a fraternity?
Generally, fraternities are created in college. They are fraternities for men, sororities for women, and fraternities are generally go through while you're in college. And in the African American community for fraternities, we continue because the work continues, and the work is empowering the community, our Black community, and just our community, our world in general, but specifically for our Black community to be lifted. That we do service projects, we do all kinds of activities that lift our society as a whole, to empower them and to bless them. We do lots of work to empower that community, and not just most colleges. They have fraternities and sororities that just do work and do community service projects and things while they're in school. And generally, like, their fraternity ends and sororities ends when school ends. But for the Black Greek lettered fraternities, we continue on because the work continues on, the need continues on.
So, Kelvin, how can people contact you?
Well, people can reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. You can look me up, Kelvin Troy Johnson, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the same name, Kelvin Troy Johnson. As well, if you want to follow my relationship work, I am on there as well at Love Coach Atlanta on Instagram, Love Coach Atlanta on Facebook, and Love Coach Atlanta on Twitter. As well, I have the YouTube channel, Secrets of the Mind of a Man, where we talk about how men think when it comes to dating, relationships, and love. And please reach out. I'd love to talk. And I love doing these interviews as well. So if you've got a platform and you want to bring me on, let's do it. Email at lovecoachatlanta@gmail.com.
Kelvin in Atlanta, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Nigel, I really appreciate you bringing me on. Have an amazing day.
Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.
Have you experienced several failed relationships or been through a divorce? How can you avoid making the same mistakes again? How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes is out now.
Hi, my name is Nigel Beckles. My new book is packed with practical and common sense strategies that you can use to make better relationship choices.
Now you can discover the dangerous myths about love. If your relationship expectations are realistic, why you could be falling in love for all the wrong reasons.
How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes. It's a book that could change your life.
Available from www.relationshipmistakesbook.com and amazon.co.uk. Kindle version also available.
Award-winning author Pamela R. Haynes. Her latest book, Loving the Brothers, is available from Amazon and all good bookstores now. Nominated in the Best Writer category by the BLAC Awards for 2020. Loving the Brothers by author Pamela R. Haynes. Order your copy of a fantastic book now.
Looking for Love is a documentary that explores Black relationships in the UK, seeking answers to difficult questions, transforming the way we think about love and relationships.
50% of couples who marry this year will get divorced.
Looking for Love from the award-winning director Menelik Shabazz is finally available on DVD.
If I had been to a counsellor or been to a therapist, I would have dealt with a lot of those issues a lot quicker.
Get yours today from lookingforlovefilm.com.
Thank you for listening. Please join me for another In Conversations podcast very soon for more interesting and entertaining discussions. Stay safe.
Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.